Hi, everybody. I'm Elise, says Another Truth here on YouTube. I hope that you're doing well and you're taking good care of yourselves and that your weekend is so far restful and recuperative. This is a personal video. I may touch upon generally some of the things that are going on YouTube, but I'd like to talk about some things regarding my own life and situation first. Nothing too personal or upsetting, but as always, there's a trigger warning that anything I could say could trigger someone. I may bring up mental health issues, real life issues outside of YouTube, talking about some of the disturbing behavior on YouTube, which has nothing to do with me, but it does concern me, and other sensitive things. So please feel free to click out if this isn't what you want to hear. I completely understand. I'm thinking of what I'm going to do with my summer. I've been saying to myself I've wanted to take these sailing classes at a boating club near where I live, and um, I'm going to have to postpone that, unfortunately, which is sad, but it is what it is. But I can plan on it. I've been talking about it for a couple of years, but I have a lot of stuff I need to do with my volunteer work and my position, what I'm doing, and I'm hoping by next year I can do that because I'd really like to learn to sail. I've been talking about that. It's one of my goals. It's a lofty goal for me, but I think that it's something that I can achieve if I put my mind to it. It's hard to put my mind on anything because there's just so much going on in my head, but in my life. And sometimes we have unexpected upheavals. Sometimes mental health symptoms are an issue, working on things, everything just seems um, more exhausting since I've been sick. And I think I gaslit myself on the severity of my sickness and passing it off as some kind of somatic issue, which it was not, because even my physicians and my psychologists said, "No, Elise, you were really very sick. We can see it. We can see that you're very sick, that you were very sick." So I think I downplayed it a lot. And I did that so I wouldn't, I didn't realize I was gaslighting myself, but to be honest with you, I didn't want to scare myself. I have health anxiety, so I wanted to be able to take care of myself and not have a lot of anxiety, though I had a lot of anxiety and that feeling of doom being that sick. And I didn't really respect that or acknowledge that as part of the process, I think. So, and now that I'm feeling 100% better, my voice is better, everything, I'm still tired. I'm still tired. So as the weather gets nicer, I'm looking forward to doing some things. So while I cannot do my sailing, and I haven't done any art stuff, I am doing media stuff, which is very different, and it's a lot of work. And I have a lot of anxiety about that, being in front of the camera, producing my own show, um, learning the ropes and things coming up and having to rearrange schedules. And so a lot of things are coming at me at once. And I just have to learn, I just have to remember to compartmentalize these things because it's part of life. Unexpected events are part of life. It's part of living, and it shouldn't rattle me entirely because I still have goals And, there's not much I can do about some of these unexpected events. I just have to follow the protocol, whatever there is, to rectify it. And no, it's nothing that I did or I did to myself or anything. It's something that actually happened to me, which has happened to many other people, unfortunately. But I'll eventually get down to the bottom of it, and I will always fight for myself and advocate for myself, um, in that regard. I was thinking, I don't know if any of you have heard on Facebook or through social media. I didn't know this place existed. It's called the Farm Sanctuary. It's in New York or upstate New York. I think it's upstate New York. So it's about a 6 hour drive, or a 6 hour drive from where I live. So I talked to my best friend about it because I'd like to spend a couple of days there. And there's a bed and breakfast there. That's how they support the sanctuary. It might be booked for the summer, I don't know, but I'm looking at it now, and I'd like to be able to go at some point during the summer with my best friend, just so I can be a part of life. And he loves animals. We both love animals very much. So we want to be around that and just kind of live for that. And I think it's good for us, you know. Now, my best friend and I, as I've mentioned, we've been friends for a very long time, over 3 decades now. And we're a bonded pair, but we're more like brother and sister than anything else. And I call him my brother because he is the closest I'll have to a loving brother. And we helped each other through a lot of things. He's helped me through my mental health stuff. I've helped him through his addiction stuff. And he's been clean for many years. We still look after each other because, I mean, it can turn very quickly. But I think that we've been a really good influence on each other. It was a rocky relationship for a while, and DBT really helped with that. Dialectical behavior training really helped with that, and in understanding where he's coming from as well in his upbringing. He's also a bit older than me, so he comes from a different generation, a different kind of life than me. So we understand that of each other, and he's a very precious human being, a very nice, loving human being, and I'm very grateful that we have this very unique relationship. And our relationship was worth fighting for. And I believe that dialectical behavior, I always say dialectical behavior training. It's dialectical behavior therapy, but it is training in a way because like with DBT, you're training yourself to control your reactions and emotions in a balanced way. Because sometimes overreaction all the time, it's not good for the body, it's not good for the mind. It causes strife in relationships, and especially relationships you care about, you want to work on. And I think that DBT was the single-handed thing that really helped my relationship with my best friend. It helped us through the pandemic. Um, and I'm very grateful for him, for his life, for him choosing to include me in his life. You know, usually I don't I don't really talk a lot about my abandonment issues, my feelings about that. Those feelings are not as intense as they used to be. If I look at it this way, and I live by this principle. If people want I only want people to stay if they consent to stay. I don't need to control anybody to stay with me. If they is the only issue I have is making sure my needs are met, that the things that are required um, are met. So I will make demands and stuff about that in an appropriate setting, an appropriate place, of course. But I don't really need people to hold me up. I can do that on my own, even when I don't feel well. Even when feeling insecure, I'm feeling not good enough, because I know where those feelings are coming from. And while they do come up for me, I'm strong enough to stand on my own 2 feet, at least emotionally. So I don't need that in my life. And I really don't, because I don't get any satisfaction. I would never get any satisfaction in hurting people or expecting people to be around me or getting into temper tantrums or having emotional meltdowns because one thing goes out of place. It's been a very long process to change that behavior. And I don't want to revert to that. I really like my independence. And I can be very independent and still be very close with my best friend. And one of the things that my best friend and I had said to each other, and it's interesting, but my best friend said, "Elise, I'll never abandon you." And I never asked him to say that. I never did anything. That comes from his heart. He said he'll never abandon me and that he loves me, and like a sister, a brother and sister relationship. It's not a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, which is important for me to have a kind of relationship with a man like that who's not expecting anything else. But I did say to him that I don't want to get in the way of him and his happiness, and that if, like, say he wanted to marry, he's never been married. If he wanted to marry, he wanted a certain kind of life, whatever, that I would step back, because I want him to be happy. And part of that is that happiness is linked to him staying clean and sober. So it's important his emotional needs are met as well. And I told him I don't want to be in that put him in that situation. But what I love about him is that, like, he doesn't give a fuck what anybody thinks about him. He's always had that. He's always lived by that. And it's such a good example. Like, but he doesn't go out of his way to disrupt things or to demand people's attention or anything like that. So he has, even his own trials in his life, he has that strong character. And I find that very admirable, and I actually have looked up to that. And I've learned a lot from him in terms of how he handles things, because I was the opposite. Like, I did care about what everybody thinks. I don't now. Okay, I just have to, make sure that my emotions are controlled in a situation so I can handle it without sending myself to the moon unnecessarily, because most things can be handled in a non dramatic fashion. I have to handle it that way, because if I don't, everything's going to be a crisis. And yeah, real life is a crisis, but I can't go into crisis mode every single time and create drama around that, because I get tired. I get tired of that, and it's very hurtful to my physical health, and it's directly related to how I feel about myself. So I don't want to get into that kind of cycle. But anyway, so my best friend is very, very emotionally stable. He's not aloof. He's not too rational. Um, he I think he has achieved the wise mind in the DBT sphere very well without going to DBT. He's never really needed it. But he, in many ways, the techniques that I use to not feed into certain things that he does and not feed into my own reaction to everything really saved our friendship. I'm convinced of that. And I remember even in DBT that I said, I've had these friendships or connections, but these relationships aren't worth it, because it allowed me to see, you know, who my friends really were, who my acquaintances really were. And my best friend is really a good man. He helped me raise my kids. He was a great, wonderful uncle to them. Um, More so with my son because of the situation, because my daughter and my son are many years apart. But he was a good influence on both my kids, a very good influence, a very upstanding person. Even when he was going through his own stuff, he is still a decent, caring man, always. And he always put that before anything else. And he, you know, he's helped me raise my pets, take care of my pets. He and I adopted pets together. We raised kids together. Um, we went through a lot together. So I'm not attached to him. I'm close to him. He's my love, but he's not. I'm not attached to him. I don't have any right to him. I want him to be happy more than anything. Because if you're not happy for the people you love, if the people you love aren't doing the things that they need to do to be satisfied with life, it's a sad thing. It's a very sad thing to see. And he wants the same for me. So I'm personally working on making some dramatic changes in my own life so that I can be more emotionally self-sufficient. And it's been a very challenging transition. And um, with the stuff going on this year, it's really hard to do that. I had to put a lot of things on hold. But everything is timing, I guess. Not everything. I guess I'm just lucky that I can have these options and live in peace with my family and my pets and my dreams. I want this to be accessible for everybody. Because while I think about my own thing, I do think about others. I can't get away from that. I can't get away from thinking about other people. It isn't just about my life. It isn't just about my own experiences. So I think that examining those things, it's important as part of being in the real world and participating in the real world, having that broader view of what is going on. And I think that what I do in my personal life has really taken me out of the realm of my own shell, of my own bubble that I live in, that I put myself in just to be able to survive, but to be able to protect myself and the people closest to me. But my talents and skills can be used elsewhere as well to make sure that other people have access to the same things. Because I live in relation to others. I mean, look at the people who grow my food or drive my food to the supermarket, or from the farm to the farmer's market, or the people who electrify the community or provide public safety. All these things provide therapies. These aren't just on-demand features I can expect to have. I mean, their well-being matters as well. And they can't expect to keep doing what they're doing without recognition and care and respect for what they do. That's why I don't really idolize a lot of people. It's why I don't look up to celebrities. I don't look up to people who made it to the top, so to speak. I don't buy into that because I think there's a lot of psychopathy when you have to have that immense control over people and things and bankrupt and starve and alienate countless people in the process. I mean, to some extent, we all do some of these things to get ahead or to pick up crumbs or whatever it is that we're trying to do to survive, or even trying to emotionally survive. But in any case, oh, by the way, I'm having coffee if I haven't already said so. So there's there are a few things I've noticed on the platform. I'm not going to go in specifics about who, what, or why with specific content creators because I think there's an element of real danger, and it's best that I don't bring any further attention to that. They may know who I'm speaking about, but I just wanted to touch on some things in general. There is a lot of groupthink and people who are these leaders, these so-called leaders of these armies to attack their adversaries. Now, to me, this comes from a great sense of disregard for what happens to other people because their ego needs to be framed. It needs a foundation of loyal supporters and people who are willing to hold them up to do that. And in turn, that leader gets to put on an act that will keep people engaged. Now, there are some people who really enjoy watching train wrecks. There are other people who like a bombastic, opinionated person because it's the cool thing to do, I guess. And especially around an issue where it means a lot to people, that there is a legitimate concern of the issue at hand. And I think there is in this case. I can't really go into specifics, but so a person takes up a cause, but they don't really back it up with anything that they actually do personally because it becomes more about their own emotions and experiences than taking up than supporting a particular cause that they believe in. And I think that on YouTube, it's just a matter of cashing in or being a part of a group because it's the cool thing to do. There's free attention anyway. I mean, that's not why I personally talk about Katie Joy. Obviously, I'm not, I don't think I'm bombastic. I can be in some of my videos, but that's not the appeal that I have. I mean, I don't know what appeal I have. You don't have to answer that because I don't need to be held up. Um, I don't need emotional crutches or validation. But um, but these type of leaders, and I use leaders in the loosest form of the definition. So they have their little cliques and groups, and if anybody strays from it, if anybody is seen to be getting more attention, taking attention away from the leader, um, providing any competition, being critical, even looking better than them, they become, or they even are better than them in many respects. The leader becomes incensed, and it is their job to take down anybody who challenges their motive. Their motive isn't to help anybody because they would. They would take up that cause in real life. They would join a community board or a commission or um, volunteer at a hospital, whatever. But they pretend that they're going to do something online. They get themselves involved with real life people's situations, but really get involved with them and speaking to people directly in those situations and causing severe problems for the victims that they pretend to care about because they want clout, they want attention. But don't get sick around these people because they'll abandon you. Don't appear to be smarter than them, more intelligent than them, prettier than them. Don't do that to them because they will turn around and do incredibly bad things, especially when they're unhinged. They will use any means possible that includes doxing, threatening, filing false reports, making false police calls, CPS calls, harassing people through the system, using people's identifiable information, especially information in digits, to so-called get background checks on people, which you don't need those kind of numbers for. That's used for more nefarious reasons. And that has, in threatening people's lives and well-being and children, that has, those have very serious consequences attached to them. So any kind of benefit that they have, any kind of social standing that they have, any their freedom can be challenged by their crimes, their conviction for their crimes. And it is a crime to do these things. It is a crime to harass people, to dox people with the harm that they're doing, depending on the situation. Encouraging violence, either with guns or knives or things like that. Using people's protected information to get them in trouble by creating crimes with that information. To garner clout. There's no, I have to stress enough, do not uphold these people. Do not follow these people. Research them. And not in a background form, but look at the content that they produce. Okay, research to that extent. Is this somebody I should be following? What can I do that where I can really be useful? Can I volunteer in my community? Can I support a legitimate online community? A lot of people feel like they want to be a part of something bigger, more interesting in life. Getting caught up on the internet by loudmouths, that's not going to help you garner anything. It may garner you more subscriptions because people like to watch train wrecks. People like watching people shit on each other. I mean, there's always that element to it. If that's what um, makes you happy, I suppose go for it. But don't be surprised if you're implicated because you participated in some private group somewhere in the commission of a crime. It's not worth it because these people aren't going to come and help you. They're not going to protect you. They're not going to pay for your legal fees. They're not going to care about you. The moment that they see that you're taking that attention away from them, they're going to ruin it for you. And they're going to try to ruin your life in the process because that's how unstable they are.